Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen loses it on me for shopping at a thrift store. After that, I knew my job, but the new manager thought he knew better. And after that, am I the jerk for refusing to give someone her grandma's jewelry back? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to stop anyone from going to a thrift store. You better leave my deals alone, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen loses it on me for shopping at a thrift store. I went thrift shopping this morning. My husband, who's 30, and I, 38, are expecting our first baby in a couple of months, so I've been getting stuff ready for the baby. I hate paying retail prices when I don't really know what he will need. I also hate being wasteful and the ecological impact. So I've been buying some of his onesies and the like from a not-for-profit thrift shop in my area. I've been thrifting since college, whether Poshmark or brick-and-mortar thrift shops, and I've never thought anything of it if the stuff was nice and well-priced. While shopping, I started chatting with another lady who was pregnant and shopping for her baby as well. We were laughing and having a good time enjoying our deals and excitement over our babies. We were going back and forth about the good deals we had found. Like I got a very lightly used Pottery Barn crib online. She got a glider still in the box from a different thrift shop. We both finished and went to check out. As we were walking out, I was getting ready to invite her to coffee when she saw my car and she said in a really weird tone, "You drive a Tesla?" I wasn't really sure how to reply except, "Yeah, I really like it," and moved on. Her demeanor changed instantly, like I had done something truly horrendous. She read me the riot act about taking advantage of thrift stores and charity when I clearly don't need it, that I was robbing the poor, and asking me how dare I could do that. I had never seen it that way. I just thought of it as not being wasteful and supporting a good cause. I apologized for offending her and told her I did not see it the same way, but the conversation ended with her telling me to go forget myself and storming off. So, am I the jerk here? Is there a certain income level or point where it is unethical to buy secondhand? Ultimately, not the jerk, but I do see where this other woman is coming from. A lot of thrift shops have started raising prices because thrifting has become so popular, which kind of defeats the purpose. It also means that the shop no longer has those items for someone else who needs them, but genuinely may not be able to afford anything but thrift shop prices. Maybe try to keep more to Poshmark, eBay, etc. than the brick-and-mortar shops. 1000% agree with this as someone who survived on charity shops growing up. While it's good not to waste, just be mindful that poor people simply won't be able to get the things they need if they can't get them from charity stores, whereas you, OP, have the means to buy new if you can't find what you want. If my family couldn't get a couch or a mattress or dining table from the charity shop, we just didn't have one. Slept on air mattresses and sat on the floor. It could be good to leave those rare fine items and simply buy from ethical stores, eBay, whatever. If you have the Tesla, I'm guessing you make enough to be able to go to stores that are more expensive but are committed to sustainability. Also, anyone who thrifts just to sell on Depop or eBay is words this sub prohibits. I'm a former board member of a charity thrift store, and we desperately want you to shop with us. We use that money to support the charitable work we do. All customers are welcome. Not the jerk. She's clearly got some insecurities about finances though, and may have just been projecting them on you. While she was a tool, don't judge her too harshly yet, as you never know what's going on behind the scene. Anyway, you're all good. You're the jerk. Why y'all always trying to take from us? You know you got enough money to buy new clothes if you drive a Tesla. I don't blame her for going off on yo behind. I would have done the same darn thing. You out here driving foreign cars, while I'm having to have more babies just to get my check from the government to stay up with inflation. You just don't know what struggle is with yo rich, entitled, spoiled little self. I swear I'm tired of y'all coming at me with this BS, and you really want to act like you ain't know this was wrong? What you gonna do next? Go to the food pantry because it's the hip thing to do? Taking from folks who ain't got nothing. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, for real, jerk. P.S. That boy Elon Musk do look like an alien though. Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk for shopping at the thrift store or not? Please let us know. I used to go to Goodwill myself back in the day, but these days they're so expensive I find cheaper stuff at Walmart now. I knew my job, but the new manager thought he knew it better. So I used to work for one of the top delivery companies in the UK. There was a lot less competition 15 years ago. I was very good at my specific delivery job, and I often undertook every office task from single delivery routes to maintaining the office and delivery distribution to all routes. Then one day, in comes the new manager, and it was the cliche that you dread. You probably all have met the type. Suit slightly too big and a trainee mustache. He had just finished uni, and to his credit, he got himself a business degree. The problem with this company was every office around the whole country was run differently, and this poor manager was expecting every person to do things by the letter, but most of the work was done on goodwill, since we were allowed to finish for the day when we had completed our deliveries. It was creating a rod for our own backs, to be honest, but it was nice to finish earlier on lighter days. Finally, on his third day, after watching me daily and asking me why I was doing things in certain orders, I told him my delivery route was complex and required it to be done in a certain order to ensure the time deliveries got there before 1 p.m. and the other delivery staff were fed their delivery materials by myself at certain times to ensure optimum delivery speeds and minimum delay. He replied, "No, it doesn't work like that." I simply stared for a bemused few seconds and said I don't understand. He wanted it by the letter today, as per company guidelines. I argued very hard against it and said he will really regret it because we won't complete, but he insisted I was wrong because it was all timed and measured. So after an exasperated 15-minute heated discussion, I did as I was told, to the letter. The 5 staff I fed deliveries to weren't happy but understood. It was like a domino effect of carnage. At 12:30 p.m., we all rang in the office to report the failed time deliveries, which he promptly freaked out about because they were strictly monitored. The subsequent enforced break times and shuffling required also left 15 to 20% of each walk unfinished, which he also now has to complete himself on top of the timed ones. He had to fill out reports for all failed 1 p.m. deliveries, all walk failures, and then had to call in managers from the other offices to finish it all. They all finished around 4 hours late. He was not popular. The next day he came to me and asked me to show him the mechanics of the delivery route in detail because I didn't expect that to happen if I'm honest. It was close enough to an apology for me. We actually became good friends over time, but he never questioned me when I said nope ever again. Am I the jerk for refusing to give someone her grandma's jewelry back? I, 26 female, bought a hoarder house back in May of 2018. It's a big 6-bedroom, 4.5 bathroom house. When I bought it, the contract stated that I take ownership of the house and everything in it. The lady who owned it had passed, and her heirs could not deal with the stench and literal mountains of junk and waste in it. You could only open the door not even 8 inches, and some rooms had junk filling them wall to wall and floor to ceiling. Well, it took me these last 4 years to finish cleaning, fixing, and updating it. While doing the cleaning, I made sure to check everything before throwing it out. Ended with more than $20,000 worth of money, some nice jewelry and antique furniture, and finally, a stunning 40s style lace-covered wedding dress. This woman took care of that dress until she couldn't anymore, and it took just some minor work to restore it. I currently don't have a partner, but I decided that it would be the dress I will be wearing if I ever get married. While doing the cleaning, I reached to the heirs to pass on some pictures and mementos, Christmas ornaments, artwork, and because of that, I had one of them, who's in her 30s, on my Facebook friends list. After repairing the dress, I put it on with the jewelry and posted a pic on Facebook. Well, this woman saw it and asked for the dress and heirlooms back. I refused to give them back, and legally they can't do anything. Also, if they meant that much to them, they should have cleaned the house on their own, not sell it to me. Now she and all her family are calling me out on social media. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Recovering hoarder here. Legally, you are in the right. Morally, you're also in the right. And though I cannot speak for the woman whose things you now own, I can give you insight into how I would feel if I passed before I could find homes for my treasures. I would want someone who cared enough to restore and respect the items to have them. You saw the beauty in them, as did she. You didn't just chuck it all in a dumpster. Take them, wear them, be happy to honor the original owner. Her family did not view these things as anything but a hassle. Not the jerk. It's a lot to clean a hoarder's house. They could have hired a service if they were mentally unable to do it, but instead they dumped it on someone else who paid them to take the house and all that's in it. If they cared about the items, they should have offered you money or asked you to keep an eye out. It's yours. You did the work. I don't care how cheap you got the house. It probably doesn't even out, like someone said, because hoarding houses are disasters. Simply put, and it takes a lot of time to clean and restore them. Not the jerk. You bought it, and then, more importantly, you did a ton of work to save and restore these things. Honestly, if I were the grandma, I'd rather have my stuff go to a random stranger who gave a hoot than anyone else. Also, on that note, I'm gonna call out everyone in the comments, fortunately not that many, who say that this dress is more important to the family member. No. It's not that important to the family. Their convenience was more important. Now that all of the hard work is done, suddenly it all means so much more to them. That's ridiculous. My grandmother was a hoarder, and my family spent months cleaning out her house after she passed. We did that because our family heirlooms and history meant something to us. It wasn't easy. It was costly and time-consuming and miserable and really important. You don't get to come back later, after all the work is done, and decide you're suddenly entitled to the fruit of someone else's work. I'm going to have to go with you're the jerk. While you may legally own those items, and they could have looked through the house themselves, once you've opened up communication with the family and friended them on Facebook, flaunting their grandma's stuff, and expensive stuff at that, is like rubbing their loss of heirlooms in their faces. There are many reasons people sell homes as is. People on this subreddit seem to think it's just because they didn't care enough to look through it themselves. But more than likely other factors, like mental health, grief, managing debt after a loss, were all huge factors. Maybe they made a difficult decision and sold the house to pay for a funeral. Who knows? It doesn't mean that what's in the house isn't still significant. OP clearly said that the dress looked like it had been taken care of, probably more than other things in the home, which means that this lady probably wanted to pass on her wedding dress. Flaunting that and her valuable possessions in front of the family through Facebook is thoughtless behavior. To echo what others have said, what is legal and moral are two different things. Well, what do you think? Should OP give back the dress or the heirlooms or not? Please let us know.
I don't know. I mean, I'd give them back. I wouldn't feel like I have to, but I would just do it to, be nice, I guess.
The police have been called on me. So I just had a hotel guest call the cops on me. Whomever does night audit and security is allowed to park their car on the edge inside the wide carport. People can still drive through it. This is a boon for us because we like to keep an eye out on our cars during these hours. Years earlier, I had somebody mess with my car twice when I parked further away while doing 3 to 11 p.m. Anywho, every now and then the carport will have a guest temporarily park in my spot behind security while they check in. No big deal. I can temporarily park in the loading bay until it clears out, about 50 feet away. However, soon after clocking in, an extremely angry lady came to the front desk and demanded a car be towed because it was in a handicap spot without a sticker. She showed a picture on her phone, and it was mine. I explained to her that it was my car, probably a mistake, but it was not a handicap spot. I told her it was a loading bay typically used for deliveries, like food trucks. The area it's at is next to the handicap spots, but there's not a handicap sign. It's about 3 times the space of a regular parking spot, and it has vertical lines in it from top to bottom. The lady responded,
Well, it's not any kind of parking spot.
I agreed, and then asked her if she can acknowledge that, then why was she treating it like a parking spot? She didn't give an answer, and we repeated this cycle of conversation. She kept making exaggerated facial expressions that came across as condescending and snooty, as if she didn't believe me. The guy working behind the desk at the property. She walked towards the front door, loudly saying she was going to tell her husband. I called after her. Please do. As she was exiting, I heard her yell out to somebody.
You're going to flip your lid, the guy said.
By the way, the husband never came inside or called me. I saw another person on the camera, but it was dark and they quickly walked off to Building C. We have 4 buildings. About 5 minutes later, my security person asked me why the police were here. I got a sense of dread and thought, she better not have called the cops. Yes, she did. The police officer said they got a call from a person not wanting to identify themselves about this situation. He was parked on the edge of the carport and said, there's not even a handicap sign there. We talked about it and kind of found the whole situation funny. The cop was able to tell I was not in a parking spot, handicap or otherwise, from 50 feet away in the dark. He waved it off and said don't worry about it, and even if there was a real case, it's up to the property to have a car towed or removed, not the police. The fact that she didn't want to give her identity makes me think she knew she was in the wrong. Don't mess with the trash man. Back in the late 90s, I worked for my brother who owned a small private trash hauling company. So small that I was the only employee and he had just 2 rear-load trash trucks. On this day, we were running together on one of the trucks, him as the driver and me as the helper. We had placed a 4 cubic yard dumpster for a homeowner who was using it for a garbage cleanout. After emptying the dumpster once or twice, the homeowner stopped paying his trash removal bill. After repeated attempts to contact the homeowner with no response, we decided it was time to get the dumpster back for use by someone who would pay for their service. When we got to the home, the dumpster was sitting right in front of the garage, with about 30 feet from the street to the garage. Of course, the dumpster was overloaded with all the remaining rubbish from the homeowner's cleanout. My brother backed up to the dumpster, parked the truck, and we jumped out. We knocked on the doors to the house to see if anyone was home who we could talk to, or if there was a payment taped to the door, but no one answered and there was no payment. With no response, we proceeded to empty the dumpster into our truck. Most times we were considerate and picked up the trash that fell onto the ground while emptying a dumpster, but today we let it fall without the slightest concern. It took less than 5 minutes to load the truck with the contents of the dumpster. Once the dumpster was empty, my brother jumped into the truck and we left with the dumpster, with me riding in the back of the truck. However, as we pulled out of the driveway, I was unlatching a turnbuckle that kept the truck's tailgate mounted firmly to the truck's body. Once on the street, my brother stopped so I could drop the dumpster to the ground. As he reversed the truck into the homeowner's driveway, I was unlatching the turnbuckle on the other side of the truck. As soon as the truck came to a stop in front of the garage where the dumpster once stood, I was already at the outside controls of the truck, pulling the handle to raise the tailgate. In one swift motion, I then pulled the other handle, the one that pushed the blade inside the trash truck to the rear, ejecting the trash that once was in the dumpster back onto the homeowner's driveway. See, when we had come for the dumpster, we had just come from the landfill, so the truck had been empty. All the trash in the truck had come from the homeowner's dumpster. We unloaded the truck in about 15 seconds. As we pulled out of the driveway, I jogged alongside the truck, simultaneously pushing both handles to retract the blade and lower the tailgate. I quickly latched the turnbuckles and reattached the dumpster to the truck. After I jumped back into the truck, we drove off, but we noticed movement behind us. A couple teens who had been inside the house had jumped into a car and were giving chase to us. We paid them no mind. When we got back to the shop, the teens confronted my brother about the mess we had left in their driveway. After asking if they were the homeowner and hearing that they were the homeowner's kids, my brother told them he was not talking to them. He told them to have the homeowner contact our lawyer. Since they were trespassing, we shooed them off our property. The bill went to collections with an unknown resolution, but we got our dumpster back. They never even came to say hi. So this was about 9 years ago. I had just gotten medically retired from the Army, and my wife and I found our current home. The original portion of the home was built in 1900, and it had been improved and expanded upon the following century. Best parts, near middle of the city, though on the poor side of the tracks. No HOA, and still had 1.6 acres attached. Bad part, near a government-subsidized housing project, but also within a block of the county police garage, so figured not an issue. Almost immediately, we encountered people walking their dogs through our yard like it was some kind of unfenced dog park. When I would try greeting them, they would just turn away and ignore me. So after a couple weeks, I just started calling over that since they don't even want to say hi, they should know it's private property, that they're trespassing, and that I will call the police. When that did not appear to work, I started taking video of myself doing so and did call the police. When they denied ever being told, I could then show the police multiple videos with date stamps. That seemed to make things die down for about a month, until one morning, my wife went out our back door with her Pomeranian to be met by one of said neighbors with his pit bull, just waiting by our back door that instantly started snapping and growling at her. He immediately left before I could get a video or the cops could arrive. We love pit bulls, by the way. A couple days later, several youngsters rode over on motorbikes while we were gone and turned the grass on the far side of our property into a torn-up dirt bike track. I had put up a game camera. Enough was enough. I contacted several contractors for bids and contracted for a 6-foot wood privacy fence all the way around. Construction started up and was done in 2 days. The first morning after it was up, I got a banging on our front door and answered it to find a couple with their doggo on a leash. As soon as I opened the door, neighbors, "We had an agreement with the previous owners and you've blocked us from our dog park." Me, "Well, good morning to you too." Neighbor, "Are you listening to me? We had an agreement and you violated it." Me, "Not with me, and you all have been so rude. You can go buzz off with jackhammers." Neighbor, looking a bit shocked, "Look, you need to open the gates right now." Me, "What was his name?" "Whose name?" "The previous owner." Neighbor doesn't say anything. Me, "Look, jerk, I tried being nice. I tried talking." Neighbor, "Now look." Me, in booming former drill command voice, "Shut your mouth, you waste of air." Deer in headlight stares. "I tried being nice. My wife tried being nice. No one cared to even say hi, even when on our property, much less a, 'Hi, welcome to the neighborhood.' You couldn't name the previous owner and you've acted like a total jerk. So stay off my land or I'll have you arrested for trespassing. It's private property, and while we could have worked something out, you were jerks. So buzz off and tell the others to do likewise or I'll have them arrested too." And I slammed the door in their faces. I made sure to post no trespassing and video surveillance signs as well as keeping the gates locked. We've had a few problems over the years, but they've been few and scattered. We've made friends with a few folks in the neighborhood, including a nice older couple who bring their 2 dogs over to play with our Pomeranians from time to time and love watching our daughter run around laughing with the whole little pack of doggos. There's also James, who is struggling with being a single father to 3 girls. He'll bring over the girls and his lab and hurl a football across the entire yard for his lab and my big mutt to chase while we chill with a couple cold ones. There have been some minor issues, but as a whole, nothing like what we went through the first 3 to 4 months. Though someone does keep raiding our gardens and fruit trees. I've got them on camera, but have yet to be able to identify them. Otherwise, I keep my eyes open. Am I the jerk for telling my brother that he is at fault for his marriage failing? This week, my parents and my brother took me out for my birthday. My brother was a bit down because his divorce was finalized earlier this summer. He's living with my mom and dad temporarily because he was no longer eligible to live in military housing once the divorce was final. I've never been married, so I don't understand, but I try to be supportive. Doing things like taking him out so he isn't just sitting in the house all day while my parents are at work or proofreading his resume. I do understand that he's going through some stuff, but he spent the entire night complaining, and no matter what anyone said or did, he was negative. I tried to ignore it, but when he made a comment about our waitress while we were walking back to the car, simply because she was wearing an engagement ring, I snapped. The waitress didn't mention marriage at all, and her service was fine. My brother said she probably lied to her boyfriend to get him to agree to marry her. I snapped and told my brother that his wife didn't lie, and his marriage failing was his fault. My brother met my ex-sister-in-law when she had just finished her medical residency and newly in the military. They met in 2008 and got married in 2010. From the start, she told my brother she never wanted kids. She was open about being childless by choice to everyone. He dated her and married her. This whole time, he thought she would change her mind, and after all this time, he got mad at her when she got mad at him for pressuring her to have kids. I didn't marry her, and I knew she was childless by choice. It wasn't a secret. She divorced him because he wouldn't stop pressuring her to have kids and get her tubes untied. He went so far as to try and change the divorce ground from no fault to fraud, claiming she entered the marriage under false pretenses. That didn't go anywhere. He maintains she lied, and he is also mad he wasted so much time with her. Before I snapped at him, I never said anything. His divorce was none of my business, and I only tried to be a supportive brother. But his comment about the waitress pushed me over the edge. He wants me to say sorry to him, but I'm not sorry. I've listened to him complain for months since she filed for divorce, and it's only gotten worse since he moved back here. I've tried to be supportive and helpful as much as I can. Was I the jerk for snapping at him? He's still upset about it. Not the jerk. But also, you're probably not going to get him to see reason. The literal years of him expecting his ex to change her mind should tell you that he's someone who crafts the narrative he wants when confronted with someone telling him something he doesn't want to hear. Not the jerk. He made his bed. The fraud was all in his own mind, assuming his ex would change her mind just because he was so wonderful, and it would be a crime against humanity not to replicate his genes in some form. What a jerk. She's better off without him, and so too would you be. I am allergic. Now, I'm aware you can be allergic to beef, nuts, sesame seeds, etc., and all those 10 delivery orders daily stating they're all allergic to tomato. But after all these years working in a restaurant, I've realized one thing. A lot of people lie about allergies only to make sure they accidentally don't get tomatoes in their burger because they really hate tomatoes. The walk-in people, for instance, who are truly allergic have a different type of demeanor when they ask about something they're allergic to, and I gladly make sure to help them out because we don't want to get sued. I mean, because we want to give them a pleasant experience. For instance, today when a moron came in with his girlfriend and wanted to order something. Moron: I want that lamb dish. Me: you mean the lamb beef, as it's clearly stated in the menu? Jerk: no, lamb only, no beef. Me: it's already mixed. You can't have just the lamb. It's not chunks mixed in together. It's literally grounded together, so you couldn't separate it if you wanted to. And the worst part is, he was looking at the meat as he was ordering it. Jerk: I'm allergic to beef. I only want the lamb. Me: well then, you can't eat that dish since it's mixed together. His girlfriend, clearly irritated with him: we'll have that dish, thank you. They ordered only that since it's a big plate. Me: okay, so you're not allergic then? Silence. Edit: forgot to add, me and the chef were talking about it, and the chef whispered to me that we didn't get lamb with the delivery, so it's actually made of only beef, and not even lamb beef. This never happens normally, only on the one day he walked in. Ex's divorce lawyer: send 3 years of complete financials or else. Me: as you wish. This happened several years ago when my ex and I were going through a heated divorce and custody battle. While we were married, we had a couple of conversations about how rich people hide their assets to avoid paying taxes. I've never had enough assets to do this, but she somehow got the idea that I was and told her attorney that I was laundering money and hiding income. It was more likely the heat of the moment as a divorce custody battle often comes down to. I couldn't even afford my own attorney, so I represented myself. Her lawyer wasn't a total jerk, but he clearly was out to get me, and he talked down to me like I didn't deserve to breathe the same air. One day, I get a letter in the mail from him requesting an updated income declarations form and 3 years of financials. It had a long list of things to include. I own a communications tech company that was in super startup phase back then. Money was already tight. I was trying to get this business off the ground with no financing. I was finishing my MBA with scholarships and loans, so paying for copies and postage or driving this 30 miles to his office meant eating peanut butter and saltines for a week. So I called him to explain my situation. He all but called me a liar and didn't believe I couldn't afford it. I was put off by that, and I said this was taking time away from business I needed to handle. To which he replied, and I'll never forget this: well, according to your income declarations, you're not that busy. What do you do all day? He then said if I didn't get these documents, he would consider my previous filings as fraudulent, tell the judge, contact the DA, and also alert the state tax agency and IRS. Probably an empty threat, but I'm no lawyer. eFax is one of the services my company provides, and at this time it was relatively unknown. So I asked him if he has a fax machine. He said he had a fax, scanner, and a copier device, then said what law office doesn't have a fax machine, and I suddenly got an idea. Okay, I said to him, I'll put together and fax whatever I can. Okay, jerk. You want 3 years of financials? You got it. I scanned to PDF every receipt I could find. McDonald's receipt from 5 years ago? Oh well, won't hurt to include it. CVS receipt. It's 3 miles long, perfect. They got the $1 off toothpaste coupons too. I downloaded every bank statement, credit card statement, purchase orders from vendors, and every invoice I sent to clients. I printed to PDF the entire 3-year accounting journal, monthly, quarterly, annual balance sheets, cash flow statements, P&Ls. Not only did I PDF 3 years of tax filings, but every single letter I received from the IRS and state tax agency, including the inserts advising me of my rights. It took a while, but I was a few days ahead of the deadline. I made a cover page, black background with white lettering. Wherever I could, I included separator pages in all caps and the biggest, boldest font that would fit on the page in landscape. Receipts, taxes, etc. I merged everything into a single 150-plus page compressed PDF and sent the document using my eFax system. Every hour or so, I received a status email saying the fax failed. Huh? That's weird. Well, they're getting this document. So I changed the system configuration to unlimited retries after failures to keep redialing until it went through. Weird. I was still getting status email failures. I'll delete the failure emails and keep the success one after it eventually goes through, I thought. Problem solved. 2 days later, a lady from his office called and asked me to stop sending the fax. Their fax, scanner, printer, and copier had been printing non-stop. It kept getting paper jams, kept running out of ink, and they had to keep shutting it off and back on to print. I explained that her boss told me to send this by the deadline or else he would call the DA and IRS. Since I didn't want to call from the DA or the IRS, I would keep sending until I got a success confirmation. I suggested they just not print until my fax completes, but she didn't like that. She asked me to email the documents, and I told a little white lie that my email wouldn't allow an attachment that big. Unless her boss in writing agreed to cancel the request or agreed to reimburse me for my costs to print and ship, I said I would continue to fax until they confirmed they have received every page. She put me on hold and the attorney gets on the line. He said, forget sending the financials. I said that I would need this in writing, so I will keep sending the fax until he sent that to me. He asked me to stop faxing and he would send it in writing, and I said, send it in writing first and then I'll stop. Long moment of silence. Click. About 20 minutes later, I received an email from his assistant with an attached, signed letter in PDF that I no longer needed to provide financials. The letter then threatened to pursue sanctions in court or sue me for interfering with their business. Every time I saw him after that, the lawyer never brought up sanctions, lawsuits, criminal referrals, or financials again.
And huge shout out to our newest official channel member, Arjen. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It really means the world to Reddit Boy and I. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.